What's up today, guys? So today I'm going to be doing a video on replacing clutch in the car with a 3-speed or a 4-speed Saginaw. I think this would kind of cover for a Muncie as well. But I'm going to be doing it in my 66 Nova. This kind of probably goes for any vehicle at the time, 60s, 70s. So without ado, let's get started. Here's a helpful tip also. Once you get the drive shaft out, go ahead and duct tape up the side with the U-joint. That way your caps don't fall off. And then on the other side, I put a rag around the slip yoke. Still working from front to rear. I got about 16% battery left and 30 minutes about of light. So I'm going to try to do this as quick as possible. So you're going to have to take off the... I like to use a pair of pliers just to kind of loosely grip it. Not too hard that I crush it, but not too weak that I score it. So once that's out, I'm going to the shifter rods. Now the nuts on the back of these are 9/16. I like to put it in gear, break it loose, and then put it back to where it was so the transmission will remain in neutral. And I had to take these off real quick. I like to put the shifter rods on this side of the exhaust. That way they're kind of cleared and out of the way. Next thing you got is the clutch return spring here. And then really it's a matter of just pulling the transmission out. I went ahead and put a plug in the rear of the transmission just so that way it doesn't leak. It's leaking a little bit, but not as bad as it was. Yeah, and the shifter rod. But the shifter rod should come apart pretty easily here in a bit when I take all the spring pressure off of it. I think this rod will stay with the clutch fork there. And we'll get busy on sliding the transmission jack under here and getting ready to lift this all up. Now how I usually go about this is I go ahead and pull the transmission from the bell housing because it's a lot easier for me to stab it in car by putting the clutch in, bell housing, and then stabbing the transmission to that. A little bit less weight, and since there's not a lot of room, it makes life a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and get started. Good thing to do when you're disassembling stuff is check things for wear, and as you can see, this rod is very worn, so I probably ought to look into replacing it. So we got the transmission out for the most part. There's the bell housing. I use a 3/4 inch socket to take the transmission bolts out from the bell housing. You have to use a kind of a weird combination on the other side with the short socket and a 3-inch extension. And then on the... Oh, I did leak that. I just realized that. I have to fill her up. Then it's a 5/8 socket for the transmission to the cross member, and then of course a 9/16 for the cross member to the car. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. It should be a 9/16 socket to take all those off. I like to use swivel sockets because they make life a little bit easier. And of course you'll have to take off the plate on the front, so that way it'll allow you to pull the bell housing off. Let's continue on. So I got the bell housing off, as you can see. I kind of looked stuff over. I'm not really seeing what's caused my issue yet, but I haven't looked super hard. I have some Thanksgiving festivities to get to, so I'm going to kind of clean up and go do that stuff, and then hit this hard again tomorrow. It's supposed to be a little bit warmer. Currently it's like 41 degrees Fahrenheit with a steady north wind. Tomorrow's supposed to be in the 50s. So that'll be a little bit nicer, less wind too. So maybe the concrete will warm up. So anyways, I'm gonna go enjoy that. So I got everything apart, went ahead, looked over everything. Went ahead and cleaned the bell housing, ball pivot stud, put a little grease on it so it ought to last a little bit longer. Just some automotive grease. Check to make sure the tool I have is the right one. For my transmission, this is the flywheel side, so this needs to sit like this. Went ahead and sprayed everything down. The flywheel got sprayed down. I probably could scuff it up or clean it up a little, but I'm not going to. Got new lock washers because mine are all flat. So I'm gonna get ready to put this stuff in, and here in a second, you will. So I got the clutch disc and the pressure plate in. It's not tight. I also didn't film myself doing it because I didn't think you'd want to see me struggle doing that. One tip I will say is to definitely power wash the underside of the car off before you do it, or if you have it on a stand, it probably wouldn't be so bad. Right, I'm rubbing up against the bottom of my car and stuff's falling all over my face, which makes it fun when you're trying to deal with putting this in. Now, one thing also you want to do is make sure everything is very clean. So you want to make sure your the pressure disc is clean, the surface of that. You also want to use your alignment tool, make sure that is in, to make sure your clutch disc is in there properly. Mine is, hopefully. And you want to make sure it's facing the right way. Now these are all finger tight. You're not supposed to use air tools to put them in, and you're supposed to go around it in a, it didn't really say a star-shaped pattern. You kind of want to do it evenly to make sure everything gets tightened down and everything is centered up pretty evenly. Also, for some reason the instructions said to wear gloves, which I understand if your car is very greasy, but if you clean everything beforehand, you probably shouldn't be too worried about, you wouldn't have to worry too much about grease, especially if you wash your hands before doing this, or in between putting this stuff together and putting this on. You just basically don't want to contaminate the clutch surface and have that possibility of it slipping on you. But being as I reused the bolts I had, but I did go ahead and put new lock washers on because I didn't want to take the chance of one of them coming apart and then losing everything. That one doesn't feel like it's in. Oh, it is. There we go. I'm just kind of going to go around and snug all these up slowly, and then we'll work our way to the bell housing. Time you can go ahead and pull out the clutch alignment tool and put your bell housing back on. Maybe, if it'll fit. There we go. That's what's going on. It's a little crooked. The bell housing should kind of pretty much hold itself up there once you get it close, due to the fact it's got those alignment dowels, but you're still going to want to try to put some bolts in there real quick. It's at least it's aluminum. It's not a cast iron one. That'd be a little rough, in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then we'll get closer to stabbing the trans. I tell you what, swivel sockets, the first several times I did this, or changed engine on this car, mostly a pull-it transmission, I never had swivel sockets. I tell you what, I bought an older set after the last time I did a clutch in this, of Craftsman, and they are really paying off, because it is a pain in the rear. Granted, they're a little bit finicky, because they'll do the whole, oh, I'm on the bolt, nope, but once you get it to do its job, it's better than going one or two ratchet clicks on the ratchet at a time trying to do this. The amount of time you save. I also bought 6-point, not 12-point, I believe. Yeah. And I think that, I don't know if that helps or hinders me, but so now I'm going to fight it. Now that I'm talking it up, it's going to fight me. There we go. Nope. definitely also get a light. There we go. That one's tight. That one's tight. All right, and that one's tight. So now that I've got the bell housing tightened, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten up my inspection plate because I put it on when everything was loose. That way I made sure all the bolts go in. I'm gonna continue on. I don't know if that helped. Next, you're gonna want to put some lubricant on the splines of the transmission. I'm gonna have to clean this lens. Somehow it got dirty, and I made it worse. But once you put the lubricant on, you don't want to put too much because you don't want to throw it off into the clutch disc. But you're gonna want to put some on there to help it ease through as you're driving it. Basically, you just install the transmission back into there, like so, after you put the grease on it. Now, I do have to have someone push in the clutch while I push it in because for some reason my pilot bearing and the front snout of my transmission don't always line up. But then after that, it's just, you know, putting pieces back together, like the speedometer cable and the shift rods and the drive shaft. And then it'll come down to adjustments. Now on mine, I have one adjustment here, and that is it. So that's about it. I don't know if I'll continue the video anymore because it's kind of self-explanatory at this point of just putting it back together. Now, and then leaving a little bit of play before the clutch actually engages, so you aren't always engaged with the clutch. Burning it up would be the key thing to take away after this, but I think that's about it. Thanks for watching.